Hello and welcome once again. I hope the journey so far hasn't been too bumpy, having lectures in these kind of forms. But I believe it's been helpful for you so far because even when you miss a word or two, you have the luxury to play back at will and then catch up on whatever you might have missed. Um, of course, if there's one good thing I think COVID brought us, it's about these new ways of engagement. Um, Let me know what you think about it. Let me know about it in the comment section when you watch this video. Um, so without further ado, we just hit the nail on the head and then make progress. In the very last session before this very one, we delved a bit deeper into the computer hardware introduction. We learned about many different types of computer hardware and how to choose and maintain computer hardware that will best meet every need, particularly in your position as you may find yourself. We are here again and we're going to talk about quite a number of things as well in this particular session. Our focus in this session is the operating systems and file management. Operating systems and file management. I don't think my name is a new thing to most of you, but then again, there it is, Mark Atamensa. All right. So we'll not delay too much. We'll just hit the nail on the head and then discuss operating systems and file management. Um, let's begin with the narrative, shall we? Look at this gentleman here closely and let's see what he is doing. Let's have a little conversation about this personality we see over there. Now, this gentleman is called Javier Esperanza. Javier Esperanza. And as you can see him right there, he has an internship with an accounting firm. And this accounting firm has provided him with a laptop. He's having it right in front of him. There is no tag behind it, but then again, it looks like a MacBook, I guess. You know, but then if it's a MacBook, it can't be running on Windows 10. So we'll skip that one. However, it's running on operating system. Let's assume it's Windows 10 because most of you are pretty much using this particular operating system. Now, Javier uses the apps and the utilities provided with Windows and uses these things to manage the files he stores and on his laptop. He also uses these applications to share documents with others on Microsoft OneDrive. And I mention OneDrive because every one of you should have access to OneDrive by now. You probably don't know you have access to OneDrive, but if you have submitted your name and ID to obtain activation for Office 365, then you have access to OneDrive full packaging. So it's one of the things we'll be talking about as the topic progresses. Javier has made several modifications to his Windows settings. I mean, if we should ask you to share your screens right now, if we're on a live session, your backgrounds would definitely vary from person to person. You would have different variety of wallpapers, and you would tell me you have made those changes to suit your taste and your mood. Some of you are even using your boyfriends back wallpapers, your girlfriends wallpapers, and several others that we can be. Some of you are using nature wallpapers. Some of you have even changed your colors as far as your general Windows theme is even concerned. But pretty much that is what Javier is using, and he's personalized the computer to suit his taste. And pretty much, in a corporate world, we say that it makes his work more efficient, and so that's why he has gone in that direction. So these are some of the questions I may have for you. If you own a computer, or maybe later on you get to own one for yourself, is your computer or device quick to respond to instructions from you? Anything you ask it to do, does it do it as quickly as possible? Is it reliable? Would you say your computer is reliable? Do you have the tools that enable you to work productively and efficiently? Until some of you got this activation of Microsoft Office, you see that you didn't have an Office on your PC, or you probably had a cracked version or something, or a limited edition because you could barely do certain things because it was not an activated version of the productivity tool. What type of file storage does your computer device even have? Whether it is a handset or your computer. There are several answers you can provide to these questions, but all of these will depend on the system's software and specifically the operating system that you have running on it. So that is why in this particular session, we're going to delve into quite a number of things. We're going to learn about different types of operating systems, and then we'll compare each of the various types, as many as possible. I think we'll deal with just a handful of them, and then we'll begin to also try to understand how an operating system actually works to help our computers, to get to function the way they should. Okay, whether our phones or our computers generally, and we'll also explore methods to personalize our operating systems and program settings so that we can increase our productivity. And then lastly, we will learn how to manage the files and folders that we store on a computer or device so that we can access some of these files easily. I mean, if you have any challenge in accessing one file or the other, then your productivity is compromised to a greater extent. Okay, so we will proceed and hit the nail on the head pretty much. So let's compare operating systems. Let's compare operating systems, shall we? Let's compare operating systems. Now, without the system software, would you keep track of files? Would you have been able to even print your documents? Okay, would you have been able to print your documents? Would that have been possible? Imagine a computer without an operating system. How, or maybe a certain relevant component, how would you have even connected to a network? You know, let alone get an internet to watch a video or do one event or the other. How would you manage your hardware and other programs? If you really did answer no to all of these things, because without a system software, you could probably not do any of these things, then your response no is indeed correct. When you start your computer or device, system software is actually what starts running in the background. We call the system software. After all the black screen, the windows turning around, I mean, it starts with a black screen most of the time. And then you start seeing in this present times, Windows 10 and 11, you see something circle moving round in that circle. And then before you know, you are either on your sign-in page, or you're already on your desktop, pretty much. So when you start your computer device, the system software is what actually starts running in the background. And most computers actually come preloaded with some of these system softwares. And particularly, commonest of them is the operating system. The operating system we cannot overemphasize. But the point here is that it is a critical solution, a critical application you need on your computer. It's so critical to using your computer or your device. And so we cannot underscore it. And that is why we are going to delve much more into it. So we're going to try and see the differences between operating system and what a system software in general is. We'll also try to explain the differences between the major operating systems, and then we will also try to identify desktop components. Desktop components. The image you see down here comprises two versions of operating systems. Now, before you even move ahead into the video, why don't you take a second to see whether you can identify with any of these? Whether you own a computer or you probably have used one before. I mean, you should have, because you wouldn't have been able to complete my previous assignments and sessions. So take a moment and look at them carefully. Do you identify with any of them? One looks like Windows and then the other looks like Mac OS, pretty much. Yes, you didn't get them wrong. That is exactly what we're talking about. And we're going to differentiate between, these are common, okay? It's just vary from computer hardware to another hardware. So Windows operating system and then Mac OS. But we'll delve more deeper into these. They are all operating systems. So let's try and differentiate between these two things that I made mention of, the operating system and then the system software. Now, the system software, okay, we can say that it's the software that runs a computer. It runs not on a computer, but it runs a computer. Okay, it includes the operating system and utilities. Utilities. Okay, I mean, look at utilities like the bills that your folks have been paying. If you are paying somewhere wherever you are, maybe in your hostel, you pay utilities. You can relate to this. You pay for water bill. You pay for, I mean, pretty much essentials. So you call these utilities. It could be internet. It could be electricity. It could be water bill. You know, these are utilities that we can make mention of. Literally, we have similar stuff like that in the computing world because of their essential, how essential they are, okay, to what we do and to productivity in general. So a system software actually runs a computer and it comprises operating system and utilities. Now the operating system actually, and the utility programs, they control the behind the scenes operations of the computer, or even if it's a mobile device, they'll be working behind the scenes. They don't rest at all. If you should break them down, you could say the operating system is actually a platform that manages the complete operation of your computer or mobile device, and it also helps you interact with it. Okay, if your computer had, if the operating system hadn't loaded, you wouldn't have had a button, a security lock for you to put your thumb on to unlock your phone. You wouldn't have had a facial ID to get you into your phone. You wouldn't have been able to use your thumbprint to probably unlock your computer. You couldn't have possibly even have an input field for you to input your PIN or your password to even start anything entirely as far as your computer is even concerned. Okay, so that is how essential an operating system is. So you take notice of that. So an operating system can be referred to as a platform. A platform. So the software operating system a device uses is what we are referring to as the platform. It's a platform. So you install other applications on top of the operating system. If the operating system doesn't exist, you can't have Microsoft Word. If the operating system doesn't exist, you can't have your VLC. If your operating system doesn't exist, you can't be running your computer games, for some of you who have been playing them. So it also can be referred to as the platform. And most programs and apps you run on your computer generally come in version specific. So it could either run on Windows operating system or Mac OS. It's also another form of operating system. With either ways, they are optimized to take advantage of the system's features, which is provisioned by the operating system. So you take notice of these things. Okay, that is what we mean by the operating system software. The system software that runs on a computer, and it comprises the operating system and utilities. And we've mentioned what an operating system actually is, and it can also be called as a platform. Okay, so take notice of this. Now, in the event where you are probably writing a report, for example, okay, how do you interact with the operating system? Typically, what you do is you start a word processing program. You open a document, right? So you start once you start the application, the operating system will start the word processing program. If it is Microsoft Word, which most of you can relate to, then so be it, because we'll be delving much more deeper into that one in the later lesson. Okay, then it provides the tools for you to open the document file. The Windows operating system, you have a start button. You go and click, and then you type Microsoft Word or Word, and it pops up, or you just go through your programs and you find it and you click on it. This provision has been made for you because the application is sitting on an operating system. You can also add information to your document. Okay, so how this happens is that we have what we refer to as memory. I think you looked at that in the previous lesson. Okay, so then when the application is executed, we have what referred to as the random access memory, RAM, random access memory. Provision is paid. You are able to, the application is able to hold some amount of your work whilst the application stays open, and then the storage provides you an opportunity to completely store the main file after your work is done. So whilst you are still working on a document, there's a temporary storage provision for you. All these things, you have no hand in them. The operating system will facilitate these events to happen for you behind the scenes. So at the end of the day, the operating system will help you find your hard drive to make sure the hard drive has enough storage space. Then you save the document and you store the location of you store the file at the location of your choice. And then the operating system gives you the privilege even to give that file a name. I don't know whether you follow this narrative. This is what the operating system is literally doing for you on your behalf. So that's just to give you a picture of what we are talking about. Now, if you have observed, we have been mentioning a number of two main types of operating systems, but there are several others that we can talk about. So let's look at the differentiation between the major operating systems that we will know. Now, there are several aspects of it that we can highlight, but let's talk about them generically. Every computer and the device has an operating system. Every computer, be it the computer I'm working from right now or your phone, every one of them has an operating system. Regardless of the size of the computer or device, most operating systems provide similar functions. Okay, some operating systems also allow users to control the network or even administer security at certain levels. So you should be familiar with the functions of your system so that you can take advantage of them, to increase your productivity. The purpose of this course, Introduction Computer Studies, and for that matter, this topic that we are discussing, is not to limit you to Microsoft Windows or to limit you to Mac OS, but we are trying to appreciate the generic similarities or concepts when we talk about operating systems, so that with either of them that you come across, you know how to navigate efficiently to get the result that you need, or to be able to personalize it to make you more productive. So that is the main focus here. Okay, so some of the general operating system functions: we have starting and shutting down your computer or device, managing your programs, managing your memory, coordinating tasks. If it's an operating system, you should be able to have all of these functions that we're talking about: configuring devices, establishing an internet connection, monitoring performance, providing file management, updating operating system software, monitoring security, and controlling network access. I hope these few words make some amount of sense to some of you, if not entirely, but I'm sure you get the point. But if it's an operating system, they should be able to do all of these things, pretty much, okay, in one form or the other. Yes, yes. So we have four main areas of operating systems that we can highlight, or about five of them we want to highlight, okay, which we can use to differentiate between the major operating system that we want to talk about. We can look at their graphical user interface. If you can recall the differences between these two images that I showed you earlier, okay, critical to them, once you saw them, you notice that one was Windows and then one is Mac OS, obviously. And how do you tell the difference? Because the user interface of one clearly tells that this is this and that is that. Perfect. It's just a typical examples that we are trying to cite here for you to see. So the graphical user interface is one key area. It's a collective term for all the ways you interact with the device, and sometimes we refer to it as a GUI in the initial forms, and it controls how you interact with menus, programs, apps, and visual images such as icons. Sometimes you can touch them, you can point them, you can tap them, or even click buttons and other objects to issue commands. So we take notice of them. That's how helpful they can be. So it's one of the areas that we can highlight here when it comes to the major differences between operating systems, the difference between major operating systems. So they may have differences in this aspect of what we are referring to as the graphic user interface. Another area is the utilities section. Operating systems provide utilities. Utilities comprises the applications, the programs that enable us to perform maintenance type tasks, related to managing the computer or device. So There are lots of these that we can talk about. If you want to view your images, if you want to install or uninstall a program, if you want to compress or back up some files, if you want to maintain your computer or device, even your screensavers, all of these fall under the umbrella of utilities that we need to highlight and consider as well. So in these areas, there are differences between them as far as the major operating systems are concerned, and we need to highlight that. So if you want to identify an operating system, actually you typically state its name and version number. So for example, in Microsoft Windows, we say Microsoft Windows 10. Some software manufacturers are doing away with the version numbers, and instead of the operating system software, um, instead they are providing software actually as a service. They're providing the software as a service. So some of them gives you the solution, the operating system at an annual fee or something. So when we say software as a service, we literally mean that software that is distributed online for monthly subscription or an annual fee. Some of the software, utility software, some don't come for life. But most of them can over the period have been migrating into the subscription based, and that's what we refer to as software as a service. Anywhere you see SaaS, it means software as a service. And so in this particular area too, we have clear differences as far as major operating systems are concerned. So you take notice of that. For example, Windows 10 is the last version of Windows that Microsoft plans to release, as a standalone version before switching to software as a service only model. That is what they intend to do. You have Windows 10, you find a subscription and it's for life. They say Windows 10 is the very last one. So any operating system that will come after Windows 10, Windows 11 is pretty much also not too different from Windows 10, but they intend to migrate eventually. So just have this information at the back of your mind. Right. We can also talk about desktop operating systems. An operating system installed on a single computer is what we refer to as a personal computer, right? A personal computer. We call it a personal computer operating system. We call it personal computer operating system. Personal computer, you've always been seeing is Windows PC, computers that are designed for personal use as opposed to commercial or industrial use. That's fundamentally the reason, the what do I call it? The main thing behind what we refer to as a personal computer. We can have desktop operating systems, operating systems that are installed on a single computer, and most single user operating systems in today's day and age. You have your computer right now, using, you don't share with anyone. Another person next to you is also watching this video on another computer. They don't share with anyone. Of course, I may be watching it from the university computing systems or a borrowed machine. But then again, it's one machine to one operating system. That is a single user operating system, because only one user is interacting with the operating system at a time. So basically, that's just it. So let's look at some of the operating systems and then address some of the differences clearly that makes them stand out. As you can see over there, we have quite a number of them. We'll just highlight on them quickly. We have the Windows, we have the Mac OS, we have the Unix, we have the Linux, and then we have the Chrome OS. These are all the various types of major. Of course, there could be more than this out there. And they are available. The Windows is available for desktop computers. It's available for laptops and then some tablets. The Mac OS, Macintosh desktop computers and laptops. And of course, the notable features. I mean, you can read most of these things on your own, and I'm pretty sure you can also relate to them. So that is also in order. Now, the conversation doesn't just end on these major operating systems. These are basically for desktop operating systems, but we also have server operating systems. And we have the Windows server, we have the Mac OS server, and then we have the Unix server as well. And they have their notable features. These servers are quite different from the personal computers, as I have made mention of They are clearly different in several ways. So, how different are they? Well, if you can recall, I made mention of the fact that the desktop operating systems are simply sitting on one person's computer. It doesn't go anywhere. They don't share it with anybody. It's just one person and one person for himself. When we talk about server operating system, we are talking about multi-user operating systems because it controls a single centralized server computer and it supports many users on a network computer. So there's one system unit sitting somewhere, and we are running this particular Windows servers on it. And we have so many client computers, personal computers, all of them talking to that particular server, and everybody is performing one event or the other, storing the files on the same server, and other people are also contributing towards it. So it's a multi-user operating system which facilitates this kind of network events that we want to happen. Many of these server operating systems enable what referred to as virtualization. And so you can look into more of these things in the key text that's provided for you. Virtualization is the practice of sharing computer resources, like servers or storage devices among computers and devices over a network. So basically that. Okay. So you take notice of that. So this is just server operating systems. We also have the mobile operating systems as well. So if we look at the major ones like the Windows, the iOS, and then the Android, you can see them clearly there. These are mobile operating systems. They have similar features to those of a desktop operating system, but it's focused on the needs of a mobile user and the capabilities of that particular device. They have a lot in common. They have features similar to those of a desktop, so no two ways about it. They have features like touch screens, voice recognition, Wi-Fi networks, all of these things. Some desktops too. So the disadvantage is that most of the time they are designed to run using limited memory for most of the applications they run, and the display also is working on smaller sizes. But you would agree with me that now new phones are, running on memories like 12 gig, 8 gig RAMs. Yeah, mobile devices are actually optimized to perform functions that is basically common to mobile users. So we can have speech recognition, GPS, wireless capabilities, rotating screens. All of these things are available for mobile operating systems. And these are common features on the Android and then the iOS. The difference is that one is manufactured by Google, based on Linux, and then the other is running on OS, Mac OS, and a product from Apple. Yeah, so basically that. Okay, so if you have any question as at this point, you leave them in the comment section. I'm going to do my best to view what you might have left in the comment section. Maybe you like this video. Um, your subscription will not add anything to me, but well, you may want to go ahead and subscribe. You never know. Great. So let's leave it there. We will move on and then look at how we can identify desktop components. Now, all operating systems include similar features, like I've made mention of earlier. The main workspace is what we refer to as the desktop. Desktop. So when you boot your operating system from start, your computer from start, you will enter your password, your face recognition, or your PIN, or use your thumbprint, whatever the security feature is. Sometimes you may not even use any security feature. The platform it ends on before you now move your cursor and your pointer and get certain things done. Is what I refer to as your desktop. So it's the operating system screen that contains icons for programs and files, as well as toolbars, task bars, menus, and buttons you can use to start your programs and apps. It contains icons in different forms. You can have shortcuts even to most of your utilities like your audio controls and network connections. So they have a lot of features that we want to highlight in this particular section. As you can see, in any operating system, there is a window. There is a window. So at this point, I guess I would want to demonstrate much of these things so that we get to see them. as best as we possibly can so that we can relate. So pausing my slideshow, for example, let me end this one here. Let me just end this slide here so that we can see the raw desktop. Ignore what you see over there. Great. So this is my start menu. This you see here is actually what do we call it? A Windows 11 computer, obviously. And so my taskbar, this is what referred to as the taskbar. The pointer, where the pointer is shaking here, is what referred to as the taskbar. And then this is our start menu. Previous versions of Windows had the start menu at the far left of the window. So you take notice of it. This is a typical desktop and a feature that you can easily relate to. So let's talk about a number of things that we can really come to terms with. We can have what referred to as a window. Now, this display from this edge to this very edge behind my video to this corner is a big window. A window is actually a rectangular shaped work area that displays an app or a collection of files, folders, and Windows tools. So for example, even if I come here, I click the start menu, and then I open, say, Notepad. As you can see from here, this entire portion is called a window. The region from this end all the way to this end, this is a window. Okay, the number of tools here we can leverage to get some content appearing right over here. Right. So even if you open even if you open a folder, something like this is also a window. Okay, so all of these can be referred to as a window. So every time you open a new program or file, a new window opens, and you can switch between these windows to access different information. Now, how do you make a computer do what you want it to do? Well, one way you can do that is to leverage on a menu. You need to leverage on a menu. If you want a computer to do what you want it to do, one of the ways to get it done is to leverage on a menu. Leverage on a menu. Now, the menu will allow you to see a list of related items, folders, applications, commands that can help you manipulate that space in one form or the other. We have lots of dialog boxes that can help you control and let you tell Windows what you want to complete in an application, program, or command. So, for example, I did that briefly, but I'm not sure you might have taken notice. But by way of repetition, if, for example, I open Notepad from here, and then I put in some information. Like I said, this is a window. When I attempt to, so this is a tool, a menu. This is menu, file, edit, view. These tools are referred to as menus with related tools contained inside of them. Now, when I attempt to close this, you see the notification here. Do you want to save changes to untitled? Of course, as far as this notepad is concerned, this is what we refer to as a dialog box. They keep popping up every day, time and again, in several ways as you have been interacting. I'm pretty sure you have come across something like this before. So we call it a dialog box. So let's learn to use these terms. Okay, if you are getting introduced to computer studies, these are things that you should also know. A file is a non-starter. I'm pretty sure most of you know what we refer to as a file. You know, because you probably have finished several assignments already as far as this course is concerned. And so I'm sure you are good to go and you have nothing pretty much to worry about. You manage to complete your work and then have a file. We can have a data file, we can have an executable file, we can have a file format, we can have file extensions. Take notice of them. I'm pretty sure you can relate to most of them. and you must have related to a lot of them after going through the reading assignment. So I'll leave that one there as is for you. Okay. If you want to create a folder, we've given you an approach to get this done. You need to know where you are going, where you are storing the files, the file organization, the structure, as far as an operating system is actually concerned. So I'll leave that for you to figure out. If you have any concerns, just draw my attention and we'll see how we can fill in the gap. So how does the operating system really function as far as file management is concerned? We're going to talk about how the operating system actually works. How it actually works. Right. How does it work? Okay. So we're going to try and learn how to personalize an operating system to increase productivity by way of customizing the system software, customizing we will first try to explain how it works. Describing the purpose of the operating system, describing how the operating system, how it manages memory, applying the steps for the boot processes, and then how operating systems manage inputs and outputs. So this is going to be the center stage of our discussion. So let's look at these as quickly as possible. Now, the main purpose of the operating system is actually to coordinate the resources and activities of the computer. Basically, fundamental that's supposed to do. And it manages interactions between the hardware and then the software. Now, how does an operating system actually manage a memory? And the purpose of memory management is actually to optimize the use of computers or devices' internal memory to allow the computer or device to run more efficiently. The whole purpose is to make sure it runs more efficiently. That is the primary focus. Okay. So we have various types. We have the non-volatile memory, the RAM, the cache, virtual memory, the ROM, and then the flash memory. Okay, so a memory actually consists of electronic components that store instructions waiting to be executed by the processor data by the processor, and then the data needed by those instructions, as well as the resource processing the data into information. So for example, once you engage Microsoft Word and it's open, you open a document, you are still working on it. Memory is engaged. Okay, an amount of data is being factored in here, and we have various volumes of metrics or modes of measurement we can relate to. You'll be asking for pen drives from people. You say, oh, I want a 16 gig pen drive, I want this 3 gig pen drive. The degrees of it is, you can break all of that down into what we refer to as bytes, which is the basic storage unit in memory. So computers and devices contain two types of memories. We have the volatile memory, and then we have the non-volatile memory. Volatile memory and non-volatile memory. When we say volatile memory, it's a memory that is quite temporary and it loses its content the moment the computer is powered off or turned off. Whatever was stored in it is flushed down the drain. Simple as that. The non-volatile one, the memory content is permanent. So even if the computer is turned off, those content will still remain. Okay, so that is fundamental. One of the types of the temporary memories, once you shut down, everything goes, is the random access memory. I made mention of this earlier, if you can recall. Okay, every computer has this. Once you open Microsoft Word, for example, any other applications, a temporary storage location is created and your files get stored in there. The moment you finish, if you don't save the file into a particular location, you lose it once and for all, because it's only temporarily being held in the location and it's consuming space. But if you need it, you just go ahead and use the dialog box, the menu said accept, name, blah blah blah, and then you are done. We'll demonstrate this in our next lesson. Most definitely, I can assure you. We also have what referred to as the cache. The cache is a holding area where your browser keeps a copy of each of the web pages that you have been viewing. If you have heard of this cache before, people call it different names, cache, and so on and so forth. It's a temporary storage and helps you speed up most of your processing time. So when your web page, the page you've recently visited, is stored temporarily and you need to go back there, it doesn't have to go and load everything afresh. It takes you straight there and things move faster, and you think probably your computer is fast. Don't deceive yourself. Okay. Yeah. So that is about the cache. Every program or an app, including an operating system, actually requires a RAM. It's very, very important. It's very, very, very important. So you take notice of that. So the more memory you have, or the more RAM you have, the more concurrent applications you can run on your computer. It's very important. We also have referred to as the virtual memory, as we have stated over there. It's an amount of information, and then the amount of information temporarily stored in a paging file, and it's the capability of an operating system to temporarily store the data on the storage medium until it can be swapped into RAM. So the area of the hard drive used for the virtual memory is that's called a swap file, because it swaps data and information and instruction between memory and the storage. So this is also available for you. And guess what? It's the operating system that is handling all of these things. Of course, you're not pure computer science students, so we don't want to go deeper into this, but this is on the face value for you to appreciate actually what is going on in the computer you are holding, so that you can get the best out of it to make you more productive. That's the whole purpose for this computer studies. So you may want to take it serious as well. The memory that does not lose its content, which we describe as non-volatile, is the ROM, R-O-M, read-only memory. Permanently installed memory on your computer, and is attached to your motherboard. So the ROM is actually a chip that contains what we refer to as your BIOS. Okay, and it tells your computer how to start, what to come on first after we press the power button. What should I do first? What should I do next? The instructions are permanently stored in there. Okay, so you take notice of that. It cannot be modified in any way. So many peripherals such as printers, everything is contained in your ROM. So we have the flash memory, a type of non-volatile memory that can be erased electronically and also rewritten. It's also a non-volatile memory. We can make mention that's the flash memory. So basically, these are the contents of the memory that we can literally talk about. Now, how does operating systems manage our inputs and outputs? But before that, let's look at the steps in a start in the boot process. Steps in a boot process. It's pretty straightforward, actually. Not to start an operating system. You simply have to turn on the computer or the device. If it's a phone, you hold the power button and turn it on, or etc. Now, before you can interact the system, the computer device does go through what we refer to as the boot process. Boot process literally is what triggers a series of steps and checks as the computer loads the operating system. Okay, so it triggers a series of steps and checks as the computer is loading them. So first, the computer or device receives power from the power supply or battery if it is a phone or even a laptop, and then it sends it to the circuitry. It's all happening behind the scenes. We just need to know and understand this. Now the processor begins to run the Bootstrap program, which is a special built-in startup program. Now when we say Bootstrap, what we literally mean here is a built-in startup program, and it executes a series of tests to check components like the RAM, keyboard, the storage. It identifies even connected devices and check their settings. It even checks every key on your keyboard to make sure that everything is intact. That's what we refer to as the Bootstrap here. Okay, so it quickly executes that to make sure all these checks are in place as expected. And then once these tests have been completed successfully, then the computer will now load into the operating system and then push it into the RAM, including even the kernel. When we say kernel, it means the core of an operating system. So your memory, running of your programs, and assigning resources, everything is contained in the kernel. Then the fifth stage is when the computer actually loads the system configuration information, and then prompts the user, if necessary, to verify him or herself, and then it loads all the starter programs like your antivirus programs, your other apps, etc. as you have directed it to. So basically, that's the startup process. So how do operating systems manage inputs and outputs? Let's talk about that also. How does it manage inputs and outputs? It's pretty much straightforward. When we say inputs and outputs, you usually sometimes see this statement I stroke O, inputs and output. If you see it anywhere, that's literally what they are trying to imply. Any data and instructions that enters into the memory of a device is called an input. Any of them. So card readers, game controllers, your headsets, your microphones, all of these things are examples of um, input gadgets that we can talk about. We have webcams, we have scanners, we have touchpads, even mouse. All of them are inputs. Okay. When we talk about output devices, we are talking about information processed into a useful form like text, graphics, audio, video, or any of these combinations. Okay, so they come out in the form of printouts. That is how come we have speakers to produce sound from the computer, or headphones, or interactive whiteboards, etc. If we interface with any of these things, a printer gives us printed content on a paper, a sheet of paper. All of these fall into the category of the output devices, even including the display. So if your computer or device is slow in accepting or providing input or output, the operating system uses what referred to as a buffer, an area of memory that stores the data and information waiting to be sent to the input or output device. So you take notice of that. And when you place the data into a buffer, we call it spooling. So if you issue print commands for a dozen of things to be printed out, all of them don't come out at once. It comes one item at a time. Yet you might have finished executing your print command, some time ago. Okay, then they are all buffering and they are all spooled at some point. So we say the placing the data into buffer is what referred to as spooling, and they will be released one at a time. Yes. So you take notice of that as well. Great. So we've already spoken about the steps in the processes of a startup. So that is equally fine. Now, how do we personalize our operating system and increase our productivity? That is where we've got into. So we're going to learn how to customize the system software, customize the hardware using the system software, managing the desktop windows, and how we can use administrative tools. Okay. Now, when you start using a computer or a device, the operating system and the related software, all of these things have default settings. When we say something is a default setting, these are standard settings that control how the screen is set up and how a document looks like when you first start typing. These are default states of the system. So it shouldn't come to you as it's an English word. Anything that is default is the standard original state of things. So as you continue to work with your computer or device, you may want to decide to change and tweak a few things to your taste, like your wallpaper color. Maybe some color themes motivate you. My background gives me motivation and stirs me on to do a lot of things. So what are some of the things that we can do in this regard? We can customize our software by customizing some of the settings, changing them from their default state into states that we want them to be. So we can change the brightness of a screen. We can add a desktop theme, which is predefined set of elements such as background colors. I can demonstrate a few of these things as quickly as possible so that it makes it more interactive. So let me just highlight a few of them. So looking at my screen right here, I will save this one. So I can go ahead and then go to my settings. Of course, I'm using the new version of Windows, so Windows 11. So a number of things may not be the same as you may have. If I wish to, what do I begin from? Let me start from one thing or the other. Okay, so let's see. Let me go to the display. If I want to change my brightness, when I go to the display, I can increase my brightness and reduce my brightness, which I always set to 100. My maximum nits is not super, so I really don't mind having 100 nits. If I want to change my computer theme, I can go to the personalization section, and then there are tons of themes that I can select from. So select a theme to apply. I'm not interested in changing or altering anything just yet, so I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, I can adjust my screen resolution, which controls how much content I can see on the screen without even scrolling. That change is all there. So the themes, I can see a lot of themes from here. This expands and gives me the chance to see more of the themes. Okay, I can equally go back. You know, so these are lots of things that you could possibly do, from your phones to your tax bar, behaviors, etc., etc., etc. I mean, there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things you can do. You can add a sound scheme. You can pin different apps to your tax bar in so many ways. You see only three things here. I have lots of them on my main tax bar because it's an extended screen. We can select items to appear in the notification area and so on and so forth. There are a lot of things that you possibly can do, to improve on your productivity as you wish and will. Okay. So you take notice of that as well. It's very, very, very important. So what are the things that we can do by way of customizing our Windows? We can look at linking our smartphones to our computers, as some of us have already done. How we will uninstall our applications, adding accounts, managing network connections, adjusting privacy settings. There are a lot of things that we can possibly do from where I showed you. So I'll leave you to play with them. That's why you need to complete the reading assignment. The instructions are very, very detailed. Okay, so I'm not going to break my back on this one. A lot of things we can do. You can customize your hardware, your pointing device, your mouse, adjusting your trackpad, your keyboard, changing the commands associated with it. The display you see on your right side of the screen is just pointing out some of the features that we can use. Now, this content for this lesson was made when we had Windows 10, which officially will not get support from Microsoft from, I think, 2025. Okay, but if you have Office Windows 11, you probably have similar features to play with. So you may want to give it a shot and then enhance on your experience in that manner. So there are several things we can do. We can manage our desktop in several ways. Some of the elements in our Windows, we can center areas to display content, title bars. Most of these things we'll be looking at when we delve into Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, and possibly PowerPoint in our next lesson. So make sure you don't just follow this class because of grades, but you partake in this course because you want to learn something and add some value to yourself. It's very, very important you follow with this particular mindset. Now, there are a lot of things we can equally do. We have how we use administrative tools. We have resources. Administratively, your computer is actually controlling and managing your resources. Like when we say your computer resources, we are talking about your processor, your RAM. We made mention of this already. Your storage space and your connected devices. You need to understand these administrative tools. You engage your tax manager to actualize how some of these resources are being utilized. I don't know whether this will show on my display. Yes, as you can see from here, right? So I have processes that I run on my PC. I have the performances where I can tell how much of my CPU is being consumed, how much of my memory is being consumed. One of my hard disks is practically on idle mode. It means nothing. Another one is also, in fact, all my hard disks are on idle mode. Everything that is happening in the memory. Okay, so as I'm recording this, is the memory that is holding every activity. My system has a capacity. I'm actually running on a 32 gig memory, as you can see from here, and I've barely used even 20 of it. So I have room to add more. My machine is running on 2 graphics cards, So I generally have to see all of these things, and these are all part of the administrative tools that we can make mention of. So we have the Windows Task Manager, and we can also interact with the GUI of our Windows. We have tiles, we have icons, we have buttons, that we can deal with. This type of task bar usually appears for most of you. It usually looks something like there's fewer details. So this is how most of your task bar looks like, similar to what we have on the right side of the presentation. But because some of us understand exactly what we're doing, we prefer to go with more details so that I can see my applications into details, appreciate the details of all the resources that are being consumed. All right. Be careful what you do if you don't know exactly what is going on in your PC. This is just an introduction to you are not more technical people. So if you're interested to know deeper into these things, you probably might have want to study computer science, but none of you is in that field now, so we'll leave it there. We have several tiles, as you might have experienced. The Windows tiles, as you saw in the previous section, the icons and the buttons, etc. You can even adjust your power settings as part of administrative tools, shutdown, sleep options, battery usage. All of these are options that you can take advantage of. Windows has become more friendly in several ways to make life quite more easier as and when you want to leverage on some particular resources. Okay, we have several utilities as well. This cleanup utility, recycle bin, trash, file utilities like file management, set tools, file compressions. You can find a lot more details of these in the key text. You may want to find them quite useful. Like I said, don't consume these content because you probably want to make a grade, but consume them because you want to learn and add some value to yourself. The most critical portions I've touched on, but everything in this reading material in the reading assignment is very essential. So if you have skipped the reading assignment and you're watching this video right now, I suggest you go back and look at them. If you find anything that is quite confusing, don't hesitate to let me know. Okay, that is equally important, and that is why we are here. We have other portions like how we save files in a similar fashion. We'll spend time to do a few of these things when we delve into Microsoft Word and Excel, at which point we'll be storing certain files as and when we complete them. So you can customize your Windows operating system using the settings app as you saw me demonstrate. You go to your control panel, you can go to your menus, have shortcuts, dialog boxes, radio buttons, all of these things. Lots of them are customizable. And the images on the right side of the display also paints a picture of exactly what we are talking about. Some of the examples you see in the key text in Office 365 will get to experience it. And so you may want to go ahead and start getting used to them before we get there. Right. So you take notice of that. Now you can run more than one operating system on one computer. That is possible. This might sound as news to some of you, but you can. So we can run what we refer to as a virtual machine. We replicate and duplicate some of the resources that are available to the operating system as far as the computer is concerned, and then extend another operating system onto a virtual machine. Okay, so it's virtualization. We discussed what virtualization was earlier on in the lesson, but this will require an app that is specifically designed to set up the virtual machine if you want to use it, and you need some installation files for the operating system to run on that virtual machine, and some partitioning of your resources like storage, critical storage, will also be very essential. Another component of your Windows we need to talk about is your managing user accounts. So we can have several users on one computer. If I should log out right now, my video recording will also be paused. So I'm unable to cut through that right now. However, the moment you start your start button, you see the current user's name over there. You can add other users to it. But then again, the user account identifies the resources a user can access when working with the computer. And you can protect your computer against unauthorized access when you have user account, because in a user account you have some passwords stored and so on and so forth. We can have administrator account privileges who can have access to everything. So we can have several users, but the privileges may vary. So we have an administrator account as well. By default, most of our computers, by the time we set them up, we are the administrators, but you have the privilege to manage the users. So if my laptop is going to be borrowed by a friend, I'll make sure I have a guest user account, which probably may not have a password or a password I can give to everybody. Oh, okay, you want to use my PC? I beg you, take it. When you go, just click on this one. The person who tries to enter your administrative account, I mean, you won't give that password, so they have no choice but to stick to the one that you have provided, and they get to do what they also need to do and move on. Files are arranged in a very nice fashion, in an operating system. We have the compressed files and uncompressed files. We have saved files to folders and file systems. We can determine the file properties. We can manage the file names and placement, a host of them. So let's take them one after the other, shall we? Let's take them one after the other. When you want to compress files or uncompress files, usually we have these various sizes that we can talk about: the kilobytes, the gigabytes, the megabytes and the gigabytes. So we are moving in the order of smaller, medium, and then the bigger. You can break all of them down into the simple byte as we made mention of. But these are the states of files in terms of their storage sizes or measurements in terms of their sizes. Files and folders may need to be compressed before they can be shared or transferred when necessary. But in this day and age where there's good internet connectivity and all, I don't recall the last time I even compressed a single file. Of course, some pictures before you can upload them online needs to be compressed depending on the quality of your internet. So that cannot be understated. So that is one point that we need to highlight. We can save files to folders and then filing systems. So all we need to do is name the file, save to the computer, flash drive, or even to the cloud if you need to demonstrate these things when we get to Office, Word and all. And if you are creating or editing a file, it should be saved as frequently as possible. You can use the save as or save a copy dialog box to actually save a new file, and we'll show you all of these things in a later lesson. We can talk about determining file properties as well. Every file has properties, and I'll show you one in the next meeting. They have their name, obviously, their type, their location, and of course their size. You only have to right click on that file and then select properties from the drop down menu, and you see exactly what I'm talking about. You see something like the image next to this very statement here. The operating system assigns some of these properties to the files so that they can have a reference point. So this is also important to know about the operating system. You can manage your file names and file placements. When you save, you must give it a name, so that next time it can be followed through by the operating system if you want to pick it. So you definitely have to follow the naming convention as far as the operating system is concerned. Most file names actually contain an extension, even though sometimes, most of the time, it is hidden from you. But each of them have an extension. So Microsoft Word has an extension of .docx. And as I come when you double click on it, Microsoft Word, Office Word is able to detect the application needed to open the file for us to execute. So you take notice of that. They are automatically added once you save a file. All of these extensions that we're talking about. Whatever you are doing, when you copy, it saves on a clipboard. Each folder can only include one file with the same name of the same type. You can't have two files bearing the same name in one folder. It's never possible. So you have to be as specific as possible when you are naming files. Like I said, if you copy and move files, they are stored in the clipboard temporarily till you get to the destination where you right click and then paste these files. So that is also worth noting. You can create a new folder in a file manager, such as the File Explorer or Finder. Series of events that you can actually do, like we have in this demo that you can see right here. But I'll show you more of these things because we have more action to do in the later lesson. And then the last but not the least, you can organize your files by using file management tools. We have the File Explorer in Windows, and then the Finder in Mac OS, and all of these things help you view frequently or recently opened files, or view the main folders on the computer or device, and search for the file name, content, date, and many more. So basically, this is where we have come to in this particular lesson. I hope you find it useful. Ensure to complete the reading assignment once again. If you need to, if you took the reading assignment alongside watching this video, that could have equally been helpful. So you pause where you need to pause and read further, and you should be fine pretty much. Look forward to assignments, quizzes, stuff like this, that will follow after this. All the best, and it's been a pleasure as always coming your way. Let me know if you have any concerns with regards to this particular video in the comment section, or reach out to me by any of the means that I have made possible for you, and I'm sure we'll get along. All the best, and see you again soon.